This is the beginning of our keynote, and it's a plenary session. And we wanted to do that because we were very excited about what David Lyle is doing and been planning to do at National Geographic, which of course we all are familiar with. What you don't know about David, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him, is that he is one of the top, there are only 3 active CEOs in the broadcasting community who actually have producing television experience. He obviously is legit, right? Let's give him some applause for that. That's important. Yes. But if you didn't know David already, he's behind, a lot of the shows or involved with a lot of the shows that you've seen in the past. He has been president of entertainment at Fremantle Media. Come on in, everybody, which of course was involved and in charge of, built American Idol, right? Which pretty much was the first broadcast interactive TV show. Someday I will give those guys a trophy. He's been working in this space for about 25 years. He is from Sydney, Australia. He's been working across the entire world. And now he is in charge of changing the strategy of National Geographic to embrace the TV of tomorrow on all screen platforms. But he's not just starting to do it, he's already done it. So, well, you're getting started. But there aren't that many outlying broadcasters out there beyond the ones that you're already familiar with, NBC and Bravo and Showtime, the ones we have here all the time. This is a changing, important, piece of data in our industry. So I would like to welcome David Lyle, who's the CEO of National Geographic.
Hello. I am what you might call fresh meat. Because we have taken a few tentative footsteps in various non-linear TV aspects of our linear TV world, but we need to do more. We know we need to do more, and we do need to do more with more people. It's interesting, I'd forgotten about American Idol. When I'd worked for Fremantle in Europe before I came to the United States, and I'd been part of a sort of a think tank group that was looking at all of their game shows, things like Price is Right and To Tell the Truth and a whole bunch of game shows that they had, and how we might make these interactive for the audience. And of course, we started off with the absolute sureness that the interactivity would have to come from greed, that you'd give the audience a chance to participate and make money out of this. And then a year later, American Idol, or Pop Idol, came along. And of course, that was, and probably still remains, one of the largest interactive television experience, where people in every other country of the world, aside from this one, actually pay money to vote. They pay 1 unit of whatever their thing is. So a quid in Britain. And the production company makes more money from the telephony than the production fee. And the motivation for that? Altruism. So we got it absolutely stone cold, motherless wrong. That we went down a year's worth of how can we trigger people's greed, when what we should have been trying to do is to trigger their altruism, to get them to vote for someone they happen to like. Anyway, so now I'm at National Geographic, and I'll sort of whip through the society. National Geographic Society is 125 years old. It's been publishing that magazine on a month, or now monthly basis, for most of that time. They're an incredibly well-known brand within the United States. They're almost, they stand for sort of reliability, and there's an almost Norman Rockwell kind of aspect of National Geographic Society. I must say that now when I get protest letters, they're so much better written. They used to just be bits of crayon smeared on paper saying, "I hate you, you stink," and I would write back. But now they all start with, I remember when my grandfather used to get the magazine delivered each month, and we'd go and sit on his porch, and old Grandpappy would read me pieces from parts of the world and take me. And the second paragraph always starts with, "So you can imagine how disappointed I was." The channels themselves started about 15 years ago. They started outside the United States first, and then it is a partnership in the channels between Fox and National Geographic Society, and those partnerships those channels work so well internationally that it was decided to 11 years ago, bring the channel to the United States. But to some extent, you know, discovery and history have been going for 10 to 15 years longer. So to some extent, we're playing catch up with those. 5 years ago, we spun off Wild. And for those of you who don't watch the channel very often, Wild has all the stuff that you think's on National Geographic Channel. All the lions and tigers and penguins and polar bears live on Wild. The core channel, as we sometimes refer to it, has the rest, has things that go from history to science, anything with an ology in it, we like to say. I moved in there about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and brought with me from Los Angeles Howard Owens, who's the president, and Courtney Munro, who was the chief marketing officer at HBO before she became ours. And then we set about trying to change things, not radically, but sufficiently. We wanted to change both the programming and, to some extent, the culture. The culture, I find, is harder to change than just ordering a whole bunch of different programs. And previously, because they'd been very documentary-based, they had someone at the door that was there to scare away agents. There was actually one person who was allowed to deal with agents who were regarded as sort of, I don't know, like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse or something or other. They were not allowed inside the building. So we had to change that. And I kept being told, we don't do that, by the person who later became the ex-legal head and business. So we needed to change a number of templates. And that's really allowed us to do deals in a different way. And so I guess that is what makes me good fresh meat at a gathering like this, because I think we are doing what, I'm not saying we're, you know, out on our lonesome doing it, but we're trying to find different ways to work with different people with different deal structures. How we look at the back end, how we look at which countries our programming goes to. 75% of our programming we want to send to our channels around the world, which are in broadcasting in 170 plus languages around the world. So we certainly looked at doing things in different ways, and so I relish how we can change what we do. I do have to remember, even though I'm happy to date lots of new people, I've got to remember who brought me to the dance in the first place, which are the people who pay our affiliate fees, our MVPDs. So I'm not about to destroy good relationships that we have with them, but I'm looking at lots of different ways to explore things. With the programming, and I am sort of whizzing through it quickly because I want to get to some other stuff. With the programming, I've called it the same but different. What we've looked to do is to have subject matter that perhaps is traditional to the channel, that's about, that's about history. But instead of doing a documentary about Lincoln or Kennedy, we did a dramatization. We did a movie of the week with Killing Kennedy. With Brain Games, which I'll go into in a second a bit more. Diggers are 2 crazy guys who wander around the place with metal detectors, getting very excited when they find a nail. And they're sort of affable and somewhat outgoing, to the point of sometimes you might want to slap them. But really, it's a modern version of history or archaeology. And then Ultimate Survival Alaska is about areas that National Geographic has led the exploration in over the years in Alaska, but there are crews of outdoors people chasing one another around. We're in a crowded world, coming from sort of, I guess from left to right, you go from the sort of the more male going through the male and female, although Comedy Central should be over the male side a bit more. But they're the people we see as in the fact-ent space. The Brits would call it fact-ent, and it's as good a name as any, and so I stick with it. And, you know, while we can fixate on these people, in fact, more likely than not, when a viewer leaves us, they're just as likely to go to NBC, ABC, or watch sport. It turns out, and it's a very humbling, which I need from time to time, experience to realize that many of our viewers actually watch us while watching sport. If you've watched football and counted the number of interruptions, you would understand how it is easy to have two things going at once. So it could be argued that we are the original second screen. These are the faces of success on our competitors. This fact-ent audience that we compete with, male fact-ent, they tend to be in their 40s. They tend to come from middle America. They're earning under 60 grand a year. They went to college but probably didn't finish. They have their family people. They come from the C and D counties, and they want to be taken away, entertained. And I'm not in any way diminishing the worth of these shows. We have a couple in this same area ourselves with Wicked Tuna and one that was up there before, Life Below Zeros. These are known in the business as ocu-soaps, documentary about occupations and with a sort of soap opera cast. Now, we're in this space, we're going after the same audience, we have these programs. At the same time, we're trying to get a younger audience, a more metropolitan audience, you know, East Coast, West Coast, and something that will differentiate us. And so hence we go to something like brain games. Now with brain games, again, I go back to this same but different. It is about the science of the brain. You know, the massive advances that have been made in neurobiology over the last 10 years, really, with the sort of resonance and, you know, imaging and brain work that's been done. But instead of doing a rather stolid documentary on this, we wanted to make it with illusionists to show how our brain actually misinforms us so many ways, and how a lot of what we think we know about the world is in fact warped by what our brain does. So we use magicians, illusionists, stunts, we staged games. And what I like about it is one of those rare programs that actually speaks to the audience in the first person or the second person. And it sort of says, have a look at this, see what this is like. So the presenter is actually looking down the barrel and challenging you to look at things. I'll show you a little clip.
Try setting off your brain's motion detectors again. Check out this autokinetic image. Lean forward towards your screen. Okay, now lean back. Do the waves appear to be pulsing or vibrating? If so, you're not alone. Watch what happens when I show the same image to people at the Adventure Dome, one of the largest indoor amusement parks on the Las Vegas Strip. Think their need for speed will affect how they see things differently? This one's gonna trip you out.
All right. Whoa. Wow.
What's unusual about it?
It's moving.
It's slowly. Pulsing.
It looks like you're hypnotizing us.
It looks like I'm hot, right?
They're not though, right?
How are they doing that?
Actually, you're the one doing it. Your visual cortex is designed to detect and want to
Oh,
or not.
So it's my eyes doing it, not the picture.
sorry.
It surprises me to see motion where there is none. I didn't know it was possible. I'm blown.
And so with something like that, then we're looking, and this is where we've taken some steps, but I look to take more steps, for deeper engagement with an audience that will come to a show like Brain Games. Because quite honestly, we need to, like anyone flogging any old show, we need to get people to watch this show and watch it again and tell someone about it and watch it again. But we also need to get this sort of knock-on effect to the brand, because a brand that's been around for 125 years, you've got to explain to the audience that this brand is what they've depended on, but it's entertaining, it has a sense of fun, it will try different things. So, you know, with Jason in particular, he came out of the web world. He was a bit of a star at various TED conferences, and he describes himself as an ideas DJ, and he's done a number of bits online that have done very well. So, you know, we got behind him perhaps more than we would the normal bushy in a hat to try and tell people that this was a style of a new National Geographic. And so with this, you know, we recorded a number of these, which this one is as a promo because it's blissfully short, but the other ones we just put out online to further emphasize who this guy is and what goes on.
The human brain is said to be one of the most complicated objects in the universe, responsible for some of the most astonishing capacities we can imagine. Art, language, cognition, poetry, engineering, culture, yes, even television are outgrowths of the human brain. Now, you're going to get to know it like never before on Brain Games. Brain Games is a game, and you are the player, created by our brains for your brain. Because despite those 120 billion beautiful neurons, my friends, your brain can still be quite simple. With puzzles and illusions that will challenge and amaze you, Brain Games is a television show whereby your senses and your brain are engaged and immersed. Brain Games is a ride, an experiment. Buy or drill for your mind. It's only on National Geographic. So switch it on and play.
I'm sorry, I apologize for the out of sync. It's when they blow up the images that we sometimes have a situation where we get slightly out of sync with the image. If there's anything we can do about that, it'd be glorious. That's the old producer in me. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, we're back. We're back at deeper engagement, and so you know, this is interesting. We chose not to have a special synchronous app that we ran during the Brain Games shows, because we felt a show that leant forward to you and started asking you questions about, look at this, look at that, how's this, what do you do, was already in a way interactive, almost to the point of enough, or you know, it asked people for a lot there and then in the room. So what we wanted to do was to do, we created what really tries to be not synced but linked sort of application, which you can watch anywhere. You can watch it on phones or tablets or even, God knows, on a computer, should anyone still have a PC somewhere. And so this one is tied to one of the apps. I forgot to say before, they're all themed. One will be about color, one will be about attraction, one will be about, this one I think was about speed. And so there are questions and quizzes that people can get involved with. And then, as we saw, there's something for the stoners. And then, if all else fails at the end, you can then click through and get a lot more information about this. But it was also designed in such a way that people could send it on, do challenges, get scores, send it to other people, get them to see how they went and got fooled by stuff. So that was certainly one of the bits of deeper engagement. We then, as I explained before, we wanted to make these things that could be seen before, during, and after our shows. So with the next one, which was for Killing Kennedy. We should have a little, I've mentioned Brain Games. It's the highest rated series in the history of the channel. Killing Kennedy was the most viewed single event on the channel, in the channel's history. And so then we had a Killing Kennedy companion, which I'll show you a bit of some of it here. I'm going to read some facts about, oh no, hang on. First of all, I'm going to talk about one of the cornerstones of what we've done, whether we're right or wrong, is that we think that that we do better trying to help the conversation in the social space with a lot of our shows to see if we can encourage or emphasize the conversations. And to this end, you know, we have also tried to do rather large stunts. We had on Wild, where the wild animals live, a show called Fish Tank Kings. And it looked a bit, oh no, sorry, I am going to Kennedy. Okay, with Kennedy, we did this sort of site whereby you could go around in your own time and find your way about. What was fabulous about it was, I think it was the biggest night ever for us, 2.2 million page views, some at 25,000 page views per minute, which was glorious for us. And what was extraordinary too was that the people who viewed really dug deep. It was something like 45 pages per, 45 pages per view, per visit, which was really pretty terrific for us. But again, these are areas that we want to get better at. These are areas that we look to see how we can really engage and get our audiences to stay longer, visit more frequently, and magically associate some of our shows with the channel brand. It's kind of a bit old-fashioned, but we've got a great brand. We're not the XYZ or Z channel. We have a brand, and part of our challenge is to show that it can be not only esteemed, but contemporary, entertaining, fun. And again, when we tried, as I was about to say, to Fish Tank Kings, we tried to launch that in a fun way that would encourage social engagement, and I think that's what comes up here.
It's just cool. When do you get to say that you've appeared live in Times Square? I want my tweet up there. Yeah, I want it.
Gotta get my moment in life. There it goes. That's me, that's me.
It's different than all the other billboards in here.
The advert's working, I'll be watching it.
I would watch it. I definitely want to check it out.
I'm gonna make sure I watch it tonight. I'll make some popcorn.
I can't wait to see the premiere.
And so that was Fish Tank Kings. What we've also done, although it looks a tiny bit tame, we are in the TV everywhere space, and we're working, I think this is what our Xbox One, look, that's National Geographic, and then Nat Geo Wild. But that, to some extent, is just, you know, our programs, they're there. They usually have some extras attached that you can go through. We're also, we're going, everyone's live nowadays. It doesn't matter if it's the death-defying Wallendas or indeed the death-defying Sound of Music. I mean, let's be honest, everyone watched that to see her screw up. And in fact, if I'd been producing it, she would have had a bit of a stumble just before the second last commercial break, and we would have found out whether she could make it back without tears. I'm sure that will happen next time. We're going live from space. So the International Space Station goes around the world every 90 minutes. And so we are going with it for the first time. We've got better cameras than they've ever had up there before. And we're looking, this is going to be in March of next year, we're looking for what we're going to do. We're not obviously, we're going to have a tracking device whereby you will be able to see where it is relative to you at the time. And this will go live around the world. We'll, in the 171 channels, I mean, some of it will be middle of the night, but we'll see what we do. In the glorious happenstance of it, it'll be prime time in the United States, and the rest of the world will just have to make do. And so you'll be able to track. But then we're looking at a sort of an old-fashioned way, again, online, of trying to engage people. We were looking at whether we'd light bonfires and do all that sort of thing, but it turns out you have to pretty well set a city alight to be noticed, and we thought that could be beyond our budget, and let alone a couple of ethical problems. And so we actually went to, taking a leaf, I suppose, out of some of the shows that have done well in Europe, called slow TV, to go old-fashioned, get people to wave at the camera, the most annoying gesture known to mankind, and actually send these up, because we can transmit up to the space station at the same time. And so you can actually get your images on up there and have the astronauts comment. And so we thought that that'd be both sort of corny but quite effective. We'll find out. And to some extent, live from space is one of the things that we're going to do some more of, because again, we've got to be noticed. We've got to say that we're about science, we're about space. Sure, we're bringing back Cosmos, which is going to be spectacular. 13 hours, Neil deGrasse Tyson, beautiful, made in conjunction with Seth MacFarlane, beautiful CGI. It's going to be spectacular. It's the sort of thing we should do. And again, we're looking for what the if you will, the second screen experiences should be to accompany that or to go along with it. And that brings me to the last thing. I told you we'll try lots of different things. Never before, I think, does anyone expect, or has National Geographic Channel, had a a studio-based comedic show about science. And that is what Duck Quacks Don't Echo is. Again, it's same but different. Same science, different way of doing it. And we look at a number of bizarre bits of science to see if these things are true or not. I'll show you one, because we go out and scientifically check the most bizarre bits of knowledge. One is that red dresses work.